Olson, Citizens Action Coalition. We rise in opposition to House Bill 1007. From our perspective, House Bill 1007 has little to do with what your feelings are on SMRs, nuclear power, coal plants, data centers, and everything to do with how you feel about customers, what the role of a captive ratepayer is, and what role investors and the utilities play. Once again, we are flipping the paradigm of the regulatory compact, forcing customers to assume the investment risk of running an investor-owned utility company. We are using and continue to use ratepayers as economic development tools, putting those costs on the backs of ratepayers for the better part of 20 years. Now, we are putting the cost of R&D, planning, permitting on the backs of captive consumers who are struggling to pay their bills on a daily basis. This bill is loaded with rate increases. Who should pay costs for R&D, even if the utility gets to recover costs from customers, even if they never file for approval? My friend Delaney mentioned a $9 billion hole in the ground in South Carolina, but what else are we talking about? TVA just approved an additional $150 million on top of the $200 million that they had already approved for pre-project failing costs. Duke Energy in North Carolina has indicated that they're being spent in the neighborhood of $360 to $400 million in North Carolina for pre-project planning costs. Everywhere in this bill, we are putting ratepayers on the hook with new trackers, new cost recovery. If the commission approves, the utility will recover. If the commission denies, the utility will recover. From CAC's perspective, this has absolutely nothing to do with your feelings about all these technologies, all of these businesses. We heard nothing but high energy costs, high utility bills from both sides of the aisle during the election cycle. And what are we doing? Pancaking costs upon costs upon costs on the backs of working class people trying to pay their bills. The Indiana courts have twice ruled that it's the investors of utility companies that should bear those costs. It is well established that the company's investors, not its consumers, must contribute the utility's capital. And I know my time is probably running out, so I will leave you with a quote from one of the vice presidents of TVA, who are very adverse to risk because they're not an investor-owned utility that can take advantage of legislation and regulation like this. But in speaking about the costs of developing SMRs, the vice president of TVA said, these kinds of costs are very difficult for us to pass to the ratepayer because there's a chance it might not work. And if it doesn't work, then our ratepayers are left with all of those costs and nothing to show for it. People struggle to afford their power bills, and so passing those kinds of risks onto them is just not really fair. So I beg this committee, I beg this body to follow the lead of TVA, protect customers. Let's make energy affordable again in the state of Indiana. Put the risk where it belongs, on investors, on deep-pocketed big tech companies, on monopoly utility companies, and not on working class families struggling to pay their bills on a day-to-day basis. This bill will lead to significant rate increases on customers with little to nothing to show in the way of provision of service. Ratepayers pay for service, investors pay for risk.
It needs to stop right now. We try to treat everyone fairly. This is not a basketball game. It's the dignity of the institution. I've watched that get out of control in the past. Any more of it, and I will clear the chamber. Okay? I don't care whether you're for it or against it. It's not how it works here. It's not the city council. It's the dignity of the institution, so don't start it. Thank you, Mr.